Hey there, it's Thursday, and I just paid off my fantasy football losses to this guy, so feeling great.
I'm feeling great.
Yeah. Adam Kaufman, Tyler Sullivan, this is The Sweat. We have got you for the next hour to look ahead to Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. We're going to tackle tonight's light three-gamer in the NBA, hit the ice, and much more.
All right, and here to help us with DK Live, Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich, and Reed Fowler. Steve, this is Tyler, not Brendan, so please go easy on me for the next hour or so. It's NFL Chase Fade time. We'll start with the AFC with Andrew Luck. He's getting ready for the Texans, and he torched them this season in a pair of meetings for a total of 68 DK points. That's pretty good there. So, Steve, we'll keep it here with you. Chase Fade, that Luck puts up at least 28 against Houston.
Tyler, I have no issues with you. You're actually like a good host that makes sense, decent jokes. So, you're in the clear. Don't worry about that.
Does the job. That's what I'd say.
Right. All right, so let's talk about Andrew Luck here. Asking 28 points, that's a lot for a quarterback to post here. He's matched or exceeded that a total of 3 times already this season. 2 of those times just barely on the year. But this is honestly one of the better matchups for him to quite possibly reach that point. If it wasn't for Blake Bortles and the Jaguars just absolutely ruining everything last week, the Texans would have allowed at least 20 DK fantasy points, potentially 6 straight games. They'd done so 5 straight before the Jaguars came in, over 300 passing yards in 4 of those 5 games. So to say he can reach 28 DK fantasy points is definitely a tall task to ask for, but this is definitely one of the matchups where he could potentially do so.
Jeff, what do you think of Andrew Luck this weekend?
Oh, potentially and maybes. Lots of iffy stuff from Steve there. I'm going to say no. 28 fantasy points is a lot. Look, I know Andrew Luck has destroyed the Texans over his career, but this is just too much. And I think people are overhyping the offense that might come in this matchup. Remember, it's a playoff game. The Colts have been running the ball well with Marlon Mack and playing good defense. Texans' defense outside of their secondary isn't that bad either, and they're at home here where they've actually been a little bit better. So I'm going to say under 28 fantasy points from Andrew Luck. Yeah, I guess he's got the upside to get there for sure, but if I'm going one way, I'm picking the under here.
Okay, Reed, we have a fade, and then we have a maybe chaser fade. We don't know, according to Jeff. So what do you think?
No, I'm with Steve here. I think he could do it. 28 is a tall task. He's right. You can't really project that much. But look at the stats here. The attempts are there. He's averaging 40 attempts, over the entire season. The touchdowns are there. He's thrown multiple games, or he has multiple games throwing multiple touchdowns, averaging 2.5. And he gets a Houston team that sans the Jaguars that Jeff picked, with D.D. Westbrook and Blake Bortles putting up points. These guys put up 300-plus yards over the last 4 games. And they're averaging 28 DK fantasy points given up to quarterbacks. This is the guy, right? Luck and then also Watson on the other side have been really good this year. And Luck is the guy to do it. Houston's defense, the reasons that you brought up, Jeff, their pass defense, their secondary is terrible. So I do think that 28 is a tall task, but I think he has a really good chance to get there.
Well, Chris Carson's been a force lately for the Seahawks. Touchdown in 4 straight games. He's got at least 100 yards on the ground in 3 of those. Also, 3rd most expensive back at $6,800 this weekend. So, Jeff, my favorite analyst who is more declarative than anyone, chase or fade Carson leading all running backs on the slate and scoring this weekend.
Yeah, let's pick some sides here, people. We're not running around the fence here or on the fence, whatever you want to call it. I'm going under. Chris Carson's not going to be the top scorer on this slate. I think people are looking past this Dallas defense. They've only allowed 70 yards rushing per game at home this year. And yeah, they ended the season on a little bit of a down note. But look, they were pulling guys because of injuries. They were starting to pull starters towards the end of the game. I don't care what Saquon Barkley did last week. This is a playoff game, all hands on deck. I'm not really that huge on Chris Carson as a talent anyways, and I much prefer to target the Seattle pass game in this spot. I think Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin is the way to go for fantasy. So I'm not really that high on Chris Carson this week, and I don't think he's going to come anywhere near to being the top running back.
All right, Reed, that's a fade, and I think Jeff was looking for sitting on the fence there.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm with Jeff here. I'm going to fade this. Zeke is the guy that's going to be the highest scorer. He's going to have to be if Dallas wants to win this game. I think he's got to get it, that 30-plus touch range. Because Jeff's right. If you look at Seattle's defense, they've been playing well in Seattle's offense. Both teams right now are running the ball well, are playing defense well. This is playoff football, and that's what you do. You run the ball and you play defense, try and control the clock, and you got to utilize Zeke in this matchup. I think he's going to be the one. And again, this is the Seattle team that we've really didn't really see this coming at the beginning of the season, playing really well. But Zeke is a guy for me.
Steve, unanimous?
No. Look, I wrote up Carson. He's honestly one of my favorite plays on this 4-game slate. this week. I mean, when you look at the matchup and you look at the projection of these guys versus the salaries that they're at, I'm sorry, I can't get crazy over Elliott. I mean, he's $9,000 this week, and this is facing a team that held him to under 20 DK fantasy points once already this season. And then you look at the matchup for Carson. I mean, he's facing a run defense that all of a sudden has allowed an average of 111 rushing yards over the final 3 weeks of the season. And Carson has been carrying the ball so much for the Seattle offense as of late. He's carried at least 19 times over the final 4 weeks of the season, no less than 90 rushing yards with 5 touchdowns in that span. Just when I look at Elliott, I really question if he's going to return value on a salary that's high against a pretty good Seattle run defense overall. Everyone wants to flock to Elliott because of the namesake, and it's a small 4-game slate. Definitely not fading Elliott in this spot, but to think that he might be the highest scorer, I think it's a little bit crazy, especially with the salary. So I think Carson is in a much better spot. He's a lot cheaper, and I think the game script actually favors him more than it does Elliott.
All right, now looking at Keenan Allen here. He's another guy that's a big name, but was held in check the last time he faced the Ravens. Just 58 yards receiving in LA a couple of weeks ago. This week, the Chargers wideout will face them in Baltimore in the early game on Sunday. So Chase fade Allen going under 60 again here, Reed.
I'm going to fade this. I think he gets over this mark. Like, he's done it all but twice this season. And if you figure, look, the Ravens are giving up 20 targets per game in the season. If Allen gets close to 40% of those targets, that's around 8. And in these matchups or in the season, when he's gotten 8+ targets, which is 4 times this year, he's averaged 108 yards. Now, you get the Baltimore pass defense. They're obviously pretty good against wide receiver ones in this solo matchup here. They're averaging 7 receptions and 63 yards, so it's right on that number. Allen's going to have to play well. I think Gordon still is the one that gets featured in this game, but I can easily see Allen getting 8+ to 10 targets because he has to, a necessity, if the Chargers do want to win this game, attacking this part of that defense. So I think he does get it.
All right, Bukes, what do you think of Allen this weekend?
Yeah, I agree with Reed here. You know, he mentioned that what the Ravens have done to opposing wide receiver ones, around 60 receiving yards. It's actually right around the league average, which is actually probably surprising because you think about how good this defense has been for the Ravens. But you got to think that Rivers is going to be relying on Allen in this spot. And I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any side, by any means. So you figure Rivers is going to be chucking the ball all throughout this game. And if he's going to be throwing the ball, he's going to go to the number one guy that he's leaned on all season long, and that's Keenan Allen. I mean, under 60 receiving yards, I mean, we've seen it already in this type of matchup, but, you know, this is a whole different animal with the playoffs here. I think Allen is not in a great spot by any means, but he's going to be the guy that's going to make something happen out of all the receivers on this team. So I think he does exceed it. And like I said, I was a little surprised that the Ravens are right around the league average for wide receiver ones. You'd think they would be a little bit lower on that. So that actually made me like Allen a little bit more in this spot.
Yeah, a little surprising there. Jeff, what do you think of Allen this weekend? And does playing in Baltimore make a difference to you?
No, I don't really care. I mean, the Chargers have actually been a really good road team, so this might even be a good scenario for them because they've obviously thrived in that scenario all year, right? So no, but I'm actually with the guys. I'm fading this. I think he's going to go over 60 yards for sure. I think he is there. He's the guy they have to get going in this matchup. And I mean, Keenan Allen plays a lot out of the slot. I mean, I think that's a good thing here. I don't think Philip Rivers is going to have a ton of time to sit back there and throw it downfield. So they should be looking for Keenan Allen in this matchup. And I mean, I think this is the way you attack the Ravens anyways. I don't think that, you know, they have a good run defense. They get good pressure. You need a guy like Keenan Allen to get open, produce on a high volume this week. And I think that's the way you'll see it go. I do like Keenan Allen for fantasy purposes this week too.
All right, let's get back to this Cowboys-Seahawks game. Dak Prescott's most reliable receiver, Blake Jarwin, last time out. 119 yards, 3 TDs. He's only $3,300 now for this wild card game. Chase or fade, Jarwin is a must-play Bukes.
So here's my issue with playing Jarwin this week. The production that he had was so out of left field last week that people are just going to latch onto that and go right back to the well. Let's not forget something. Last week was week 17. That's not exactly the week you're going to judge somebody and go, oh, gee, I didn't realize he was such a great productive player. Week 17, he really got it done. Of course he's going to get it done. Look, the Cowboys barely ran the ball in that last game. So with Elliott off the field, Dak Prescott really didn't have a choice but to throw the ball in this one. I mean, Dallas averages 27 running plays per week on the season. Last week, they only did 18, and that's not including the 4 rushing attempts they had from Prescott. Seahawks are amongst one of the best against opposing tight ends. I've ran this home before when we were talking about playing George Kittle and was like, yeah, you just still got to play him because, it's George Kittle. I don't care. Seattle's defense is wonderful, fantastic, and great against opposing tight ends. Don't get cute on this slate. Just play Eric Ebron and get it over with. 3,300, it's a trap.
Well, to Buke's point, Jeff, Ezekiel Elliott, of course, did not play in Week 17, and Dak Prescott did spread it around. 9 different guys had catches, in fact, but still 3 touchdowns to one single guy. So chase your fate on Jarwin.
It's a trap.
Look, Blake Jarwin might have wrote the evolution of species, but I'm still not going to play him this week. Steve actually mentioned it. I mean, Seattle's a really good team against covering against tight ends. People forget Bobby Wagner is still on that team. All those other players gone. Bobby Wagner's still there. It's just a tough matchup. And I alluded to this yesterday on the show. I like the matchup for Amari Cooper, and I think that's where you're going to see most of the passing game go to. So Jarwin's a fine player. I think the Cowboys underutilized him most of the year, quite frankly. But in this spot, I don't really like him. And I think there's too many other good tight ends on the slate, quite frankly, to just click on him because he is going to be chalky. People are just going to go with the recency bias and use him at 3,300. So I think that's a mistake in the spot, though.
Cooper did nothing last week, Reed, but he was targeted 11 times, and we know that he is just, he and Dak, they've fallen in love with one another since that trade to Dallas. So what do you think of Jarwin here?
Yeah, we have a Darwin joke. We have Steve's caricatures. Like, yeah, I'm going to chase that. He always is a guy who tells us, like, this is what no one's ever doing that. So I appreciate it from Steve, but I'm with the guys here. Like, the Jarwin is not a guy that you have to go to. The must play, like Steve mentioned, is Eric Ebron in a much better matchup. And he's right. You look at Seattle's defense. If you take away Kittle, who had a combined 39 DK fantasy points against Seattle, he's the number 1 by yards this season in terms of tight end. They've given up 5.8 points over the last 4 games. Really good against tight end. He's not a must play. The only must play to me at tight end is probably Ebron in this spot.
Right. Bigger bromance, Amari and Dak or Reed and Steve so far? I'd go with Reed and Steve.
Yeah, I mean, in this hour, it's not even close. I'll tell you that.
That's absolutely true.
It's a new shirt. Steve's got a new shirt. I like it.
Wow.
Stop hitting on me.
Doesn't look good.
All right, boys. You guys enjoy yourselves during the break. We're going to hit the hardwood next. And after it, but before that, actually, we're going to get the latest here on a Patriots assistant coach, get this, Kaufman, who turned down an opportunity before accepting the gig this time.
That's a novel approach. Good.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen in with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash. How badly does Josh McDaniels want to be a head coach in the National Football League? It ain't going to happen in Cincinnati. Per NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, McDaniels is passing on the Bengals interview request. So for now, this leaves one reported scheduled visit. That is the Packers, Friday. The 42-year-old glows as a candidate in Green Bay for a few reasons. Number one, McDaniels has a proven track record of working with a veteran quarterback. He's been alongside Tom Brady for 10-plus years in 2 separate stints. Brady has gloated about their relationship. Aaron Rodgers likey. Second reason is a second chance. Everyone knows McDaniels did the Indianapolis Colts dirty, failing last minute on the job last offseason. Turns out Andrew Luck can still play. You can also interpret second chance as an opportunity for McDaniels to shred his head coaching files from the 2009 and 2010 seasons once and for all, when he unsuccessfully led the Denver Broncos, which leads to reason number 3. No need to draft another quarterback or another Tebow, Josh. Rodgers is sitting right on the platter for you. Revive his career, you become a Lambeau legend. If head coaching isn't now for him, then when is it? At the end of the day, McDaniels would have had Brady, should have had Luck, but with doubt, could have Rodgers. Not a bad way to live, coach or coordinator.
I could feel Brendan's words just looking at his face.
I know, exactly.
Watching that video.
Not
All right.
surprising.
Well, no, I mean, he's an animated guy. Thanks to Brendan. We'll hear from him again, I'm sure. Good to have DK Live's Julian Edlow and Alex Barutha from RotoWire here with us. They're going to help us with NBA Price Check. Jules, let's start with you, pal. Steph Curry coming off a fantastic New Year's Eve. 54 DK points. Now, 3rd highest priced player on this slate, 9,500 against the Rockets. Think it'll be worth it?
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate this spot for Steph Curry.
What does that mean? What does that mean? You don't necessarily hate this spot. You like it or you don't like it?
He's a good play. He's 9,500 against the Rockets. Like, that's fine. But if you let me finish my sentences, Kaufman, I don't know how you can necessarily fit him into, what the cash game lineup would be tonight with James Harden. James Harden is $11,000. He should be way more expensive. His salary just dropped. I think it was $400. Yeah, his salary is down $400 after an 82 DraftKings point game. Chris Paul is still out. Eric Gordon is going to remain out. Harden's had over 70 DraftKings points in 4 of his last 10 games. So you've got these revenge narratives in San Antonio with DeMar DeRozan, with Kawhi Leonard. So the only way that I'm targeting, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, all these Warriors guys is if you want to go with a GPP stack of them because they're going to be a lot less popular than Harden and the guys in this San Antonio-Toronto game. That is what I mean, Kaufman.
All right. It just took a little while. Took a little while to get there. That's just all these caveats and qualifiers. That's why. Barutha, give me a little more clarity on this.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see Curry at 9,500, considering he has a pretty high floor. I mean, the lowest he's really been over the past couple of weeks is 27 fantasy points. I don't really expect that to happen again. Yeah, at 9,500, you can play him in cash for that solid 35, 40 fantasy point floor, and we know he has 50 to 60 fantasy point upside. My only concern is we know how much the Rockets love to slow the game down, and they're going to try to do as much as they can to get Curry switched on to Harden. Harden's going to try to get Curry to foul him, try to follow Curry out of the game. If you're looking for any narrative not to play Curry, I think that's it.
All right, well, on the other side of it now, Clint Capella here. He is on the other side of this matchup, and he's the cheapest price since mid-November, $6,900. So is this a steal tonight, Alex?
I think this is. It's hard to avoid putting Capella in your lineup. I mean, this is a guy who has 50 fantasy point upside. I mean, very literally at 6,900, there aren't too many other guys on the slate, really almost any slate that are in that position. And we know the Warriors don't necessarily have the size to deal with Capella down low as far as rebounding, especially. So I do really like him at this spot. I'm sure his ownership will be through the roof, but I feel like he's hard to avoid.
Julian, is that a way that maybe you would fade him because the ownership is going to be so high?
Only in tournaments, if you want to go with that Warriors stack, I think this is one of the only slates where the Warriors are going to be so low owned because of the salaries of the other teams, especially on a 3-game slate. You would think they would be popular. But in cash games, and if you want to use, a safe tournament play, Capella's fine. He is going to be extremely popular, but the price tag is extremely ideal on him. If you look at his game log, if he had been priced at this salary, he would have exceeded value in 8 of his last 9 games. And like Alex touched on there, the Warriors just don't have the bodies to, contend with big guys like this. Like Draymond Green's going to do his best, but he's not really going to be able to do much with Capella at the rim. So I think this is a really safe play. Lock him in cash games, and he's not a bad tournament play if you want to just get contrarian elsewhere.
Paul Millsap, pretty inexpensive too, guys. 5,200 facing the Kings. So Felix, is he undervalued?
Yes, he is, Adam. Look, he was horrible in that first game back. He missed, I think it was 8 games with a broken toe. He played 14 minutes at Phoenix and had just 6 points, 1 rebound, 9.5 DraftKings points. But New Year's Day against the New York Knicks, 22 minutes, 34.25 DraftKings points. Did that with 16 points and 19 rebounds. Definitely a huge step in the right direction. He might not even be that good tonight, but he's got a great matchup against the Sacramento Kings. If he gets anywhere in that 22 to 28 minute range, he's definitely a candidate for 25 to 35 DraftKings points, and that's plenty of value for you.
Alex, are you going to fit Millsap in?
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will be going this route, but I mean, as we alluded to, this is a great spot for Millsap. He's coming off a great game against the Knicks, so he got his confidence up a little bit there, and really he's going to be going up against Nemanja Bjelica, power forward, most of the game, or Justin Jackson. The Kings just don't have a lot of size at the power forward spot, and that's where Paul Millsap does his damage. He's a big body. So I think at 5,200, I'd be looking to fit him in, at a variety of lineups.
All right, one more, Alex, here. Bogdanovic has exceeded 30 fantasy points in each of his last 3 games here. He's only 5,800 tonight. So do you like him at this price versus those Nuggets?
I do. I mean, this should be a high-paced game. I do have hesitations because just the Kings in general, it feels like they have a ton of guys on their team who, when 2 of them go off, the other 2 have a bad game, and it feels like you're kind of just picking and choosing, who is going to have a good game or a bad game. So I'm completely fine with fading him. But on the other hand, his price is low for a reason. It's because he'll have a down game as well. So you can tell him kind of back and forth on this. I think you can get away with fading him.
Well, it's okay. I'm not Adam. I won't yell at you. It's perfectly fine there. So, Julian, now what do you think about Bogdanovic?
Yeah, I mean, we got to draw the line somewhere. We can't play everybody. We're talking about how cheap he is. This is the most expensive he's been in 7 games, so it's not like we're getting a crazy discount here. And the Denver Nuggets ranked first in the NBA against the shooting guard position. I know he plays a little bit of combo guard, but Denver's a really good defensive team, and Gary Harris is back now. He's on a minutes restriction, but he's a good defensive player who could match up on Bogdanovic some. So I don't think we're really getting much of an edge here in terms of the salary or the matchup, so that means you got to look elsewhere.
Julian, I miss seeing your kitchen almost as much as I miss seeing you here in studio. We'll bring you guys back.
In front of me right now, the living room behind me, a new angle.
Oh, good. It looks terrific. Maybe a little dark. We'll bring you guys back a little bit later on. For now, we got to get back to football, starting with a look at the Cowboys, Seahawks, and that bout. Well, let's get some details from the PME studios.
Seattle at Dallas. This is another game that opened at -2.5 for the Cowboys. Is down to -1 for the Cowboys. 1 point favorite at home, 43 is the over-under. There's a lot in this game that suggests Dallas is going to win, at least in my mind. How good is Seattle? What do they want to do on offense? They want to run the ball. Dallas, very good run defense. Seattle, not really particularly good at stopping the run. All Dallas really wants to do is run the ball. And when I look at the defenses, Seattle's is good, but it seems like it's relatively opportunistic. And Dallas has been on sort of the decline after having that big showcase on the Thursday night against the Saints where their defense looked unstoppable. But it is still very good, especially against the run. That I think people are underrating Dallas a lot in this spot. But you could just look at if I'm going to take Frank Reich over Bill O'Brien as sort of a tiebreaker in that game, Pete Carroll over Jason Garrett, that's a big positive. And then you have Russell Wilson versus Dak Prescott. That's a big positive.
There's a lot of people simplistically, and no fault of their own. If you put a gun to my head, I would almost have to break the game down because I don't have a strong lean much the same way. Simplistically, I'll take Carroll and Russ over Dak and Garrett.
The coin agrees with you. The coin is
but
taking
I'm
the
not.
Seahawks.
I think there's more. I think Zeke gets it like 42 times.
He should get it. If he gets it 42 times, they're winning the game.
And I think it's going to be a really close, low-scoring game.
Have you been super impressed by Seattle the last month? Everyone got on their jock about, oh, yeah, they're going to be great. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. Look at my odds. Not like they barely beat Arizona. Don't they barely get by San Francisco?
They can't go to the Super Bowl because I just can't envision them winning 3 straight road games.
I can't envision them going to New Orleans and beating the Saints. I could see them going into LA and beating the Rams.
Just 3, yeah, sure, as division rivals. But the big picture premise of them winning 3 straight road games, I'm not really buying into, and I don't love it. I'll be in on the Colts sizably. This is a game I don't know. I mean, I might bet it because it's Saturday night, and I like to think the Colts will have just won. Give me Dallas, but I really don't. I'm not that confident. I don't think I sound very confident.
Yeah, I'm very torn on this game as well. Maybe I'll let Tim make a pick here. Tim, you taking Dallas or Seattle?
I'm taking Seattle. I do not trust this Dallas team whatsoever. By DVOA, this is pretty decisively the worst team in the playoffs, the Cowboys, 21st overall. So there's quite a sizable difference between them and the Seahawks. I actually think it's a bad line. I think the Seahawks should be a 2.5 point favorite. That's the way I would have it. So I think there's value on the Seahawks money line at the moment because you're not having to eat any juice to take them. I don't trust the coaching. I don't trust Dallas. I think I can easily envision Seattle getting up a quick 10 and Dallas being flustered and being completely out of their rhythm. I think that they're going to have trouble getting to Wilson. Wilson's too elusive. I think for Dallas to win this game, they better run the ball 45 times, and Cooper better break one big. I'm dubious that that's going to happen. I would say it's like a 65-35 range of outcomes, and I like the Seahawks here. I think they're the way to play the game.
All right, thanks, Pat. Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich, and Reed Fowler are back with us. They are of DK Live fame, but we'll save the autograph signing for another time. How about that, Kaufman?
Well, that's disappointing is what it is. All right, this is the NFL Spin Move, guys. We're looking at today's top headlines. Adding a fantasy slant is what we do each and every show. For instance, Antonio Brown reportedly wants a trade from Pittsburgh. Ain't never going to happen. But yesterday, Jarvis Landry furthered that conversation by trying to recruit the All-Pro to Cleveland. I don't think any of these guys get how this works because
not at all.
He doesn't have any control over it either. But would that, just to play the game, be the best landing spot for AB Stevie B? What do you think?
I mean, for Jarvis Landry, he needs to calm down with the recruiting. Because, look, if Antonio Brown comes on the team, guess what pretty much becomes irrelevant? You, Jarvis Landry. So I don't know how much you actually want him on the team. But, to be fair, we're going to play this game. I mean, it's been said already, but the 49ers make a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, they'll get Jimmy Garoppolo back. Although Nick Mullins did make a good case to keep that job, just saying. But, honestly, it would be good for them. They need a wide receiver one. I mean, they desperately need a wide receiver one. I mean, George Kittle has been the guy, and I think that would help George Kittle a lot, too, get him a little bit more open, because if you're covering George Kittle, I mean, who else really left do you have on that team to cover? But, yeah, I think the 49ers is a really good spot, and, that's not groundbreaking by any means, but that seems to be the most spot. There's no way they'll trade in the division. I'll tell you that. And if they do, the Browns won't even be relevant because they'll have nobody left on the team to get them.
Just a reminder of sanity that the Steelers would have to eat $21.5 million in dead cap money to trade him away versus $22.5 million to keep him. But again, to play the game. Jeff, where's the right spot? Is it Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, after June 1st, that number actually does go down. I think that's what a lot of people are just overlooking. So it's not going to happen now. But after June, it's a much more likely scenario Antonio Brown could get dealt. Anyways, Cleveland makes absolutely zero sense for so many reasons. First of all, Jarvis Landry is a $14 million cap hit next year. So you add Antonio Brown to that. How much money is one team going to put into the wide receiver position? It'd be ridiculous. They have Antonio Callaway. They have Hollywood Higgins. They have David Njoku. Just keep developing your young wide receivers, Cleveland. Don't trade for Antonio Brown. That'd be ridiculous. By the way, Steve's right. Like, Jarvis Landry is very cuttable after 2019. So you might want to cool the Jets there, Jarvis. You're just digging your own grave here. No, I think it's a horrible landing spot. They're not going to trade him in division anyways. San Francisco's interesting. The Jets will probably take him because the Jets are, they take everyone. So
the lesson, Jarvis, don't recruit someone to do your job. Reed, what do you think? Are you also fading this?
Yeah, I'm fading this as well. These guys hit all the good points. San Francisco does present the most upside, right? If you look at explosive play percentage, San Francisco is number 4 at 11.5% of these big plays, right? That's ahead of the Saints. And so Shanahan and his offense, we've seen what they're able to do. They've been littered with injuries this year. Obviously, getting those guys back next year, AB could fit in that spot. The Jets, what you want to look at, too, is these rookie quarterbacks who are on these rookie contracts like the Jets. He's not going to the Bills, so let's take that team out of there. And, with Baker Mayfield, you look at these teams who have really good rookie quarterbacks on the rookie salaries, and that's what you want to do. We've seen it with Russell Wilson. We've seen it before with Deshaun Watson. You acquire these big-name guys because you have that cap space, not paying for these big guys. The Raiders don't know how to do it. Other teams like the Jets, the Colts, the Niners have a lot of cap space, have a lot of cash. He's staying in Pittsburgh, but San Francisco would be the spot.
All right, well, good news here for the Chargers. Melvin Gordon was a full go in practice yesterday. He's already declared that he's ready to face the Ravens on Wild Card weekend here. Gordon scored, but only had 41 rushing yards in their matchup a couple of weeks ago. Do you expect him to be better this time around, Jeff?
I want to make a case for playing Melvin Gordon this week because I really feel like most people are just going to overlook him, but it's hard. I mean, but the Ravens, I think, allowed one 100-yard rusher all season. It's just a good, solid defense, and they don't allow many pass catches to the running back position either. They're, well within the bottom 12 of the league in terms of limiting the running back in that regard as well. So you can't even rely on Melvin Gordon for a huge PPR day, it looks like here. It's just a tough spot. And then you have the injuries coming in. He's still questionable. He's going to play, but how effective is he going to be? You have Justin Jackson coming on late in the season. Austin Eckler is going to be active. You don't even know what his snap count's going to be. So it's just a situation I'm probably going to end up avoiding. I do think the Chargers are going to play him as much as possible, and if he does get off to a good start, there is a potential for a big game there, but it's not a good spot. I don't think he's going to have a good game.
Reed, how are you looking at Gordon this weekend? Are you going to drop 7,700 on him?
Yeah, I have the same conviction as Jeff. You want to play Melvin Gordon. He's been a guy that I played quite a bit this season. Tough spot. I will say, though, that if you look at Justin Jackson in this matchup last time, he saw 10 targets, 7 receptions. So I think you have some there. Could have been garbage time. Those are still real fantasy points. In terms of Gordon, he could be a decent GPP play because everyone's going to be flocking right to the Elliott's, to Steve's point. maybe pivoting to Carson. But when you want to pivot on the contrarian, you want to pivot to a talented guy. Gordon is that. He scored. You know, he is the one running back that has done well against his team on a limited amount of snaps. We saw him come back obviously after that injury. It's going to be a tough one, though, because you still, with Austin Eckler limited, I think that is the key to this matchup. If he's not in, I think Gordon can get the volume, but just the points aren't going to be there. So I'm with Jeff on this one.
All right, Steve, give us the last word on this one. How are you feeling about Gordon?
Well, I'm glad to know that Reed played Melvin Gordon a lot this season. It took a lot of research, so congrats. Look, I mean, I think it's more of the same for Gordon in this matchup here. I mean, the Ravens have proven time and time again that they are one of the best run defenses in the league. And, you know, maybe we can say Melvin Gordon wasn't fully healthy in that matchup, so that's why he didn't do as well. But what do we say about the other 15 teams who averaged 64 rushing yards against them through the entire season? I mean, I'd like to see what Gordon could do with a little more targets in this game. He only had 3 that last time around. And while the Ravens have been good against passing down backs, we have seen backs who are efficient in the PPR game do well against them. We saw James Conner had 56 receiving yards against him. Joe Mixon had 38. Even Justin Jackson had 47 against them. So I think that if they want to try to get something going here, that would make a lot of sense for Gordon to get him going in that game. But, you know, health are an issue and things like that. 7,700 is a lot of change to drop on a guy who's going up against arguably the best run defense in the league. So I think it's just going to be more of the same in this spot.
Guys, T.Y. Hilton did not practice today. He is questionable. He's been nursing an ankle injury. Pretty much a dud last week versus the Titans. 2 catches, 6 targets, 61 yards. Second highest priced receiver, 7,800 yards this weekend. So, Reed, if he plays, again, he's questionable. Is he worth the risk?
I think he is. When you look at this matchup, right, we have top DVOAs, defenses per DVOA, and Houston is that one where their pass defense is just, it doesn't correlate to how good they are on the run, and that's really where you attack this team, right? They're against wide receiver ones, they're 31st in the league, and Hilton has torched this guy before. And I know Jeff's going to mention, look, when a team gets torched by a single player, they filter a lot of their defense to there, but Hilton is that guy who can get past this defense, and that secondary doesn't really have anyone to stop him. I think when you have Luck and Ebron and these guys who are going to be able to produce, and Houston just giving up a ton of yards to the passing game, I think Hilton is a must-play, especially if people are going to flock towards the other guy in this matchup, which is DeAndre Hopkins. So I think he is.
Hilton did certainly torch the Texans, about 25 points against fantasy points per against this team. So what do you think, Steve?
Oh, I'm so glad you went to me because Jeff can't make that stupid argument about when they do it the first time because he did it twice already. So that's irrelevant, Jeff. So you can't even take that out of your notes. But look, it's so tough to want to go with him here because of that questionable tag and the ankle that's been bothering him. I mean, even with the bum ankle, though, we did see him get some good separation against the Titans. But if he was fully healthy, that 43-yard catch that he had easily would have been a touchdown if he was healthy. I mean, he had everything going for him there, but it just obviously he couldn't get into that second gear and really take off. But man, it's a really, really hard sell to get me off of him against a team that already has 314 receiving yards against in 2, Jeff, matchups already this season. In GPPs, yes, I guess you can say, there is some appeal there to fading him because if he busts, his ownership is still going to be sky high in this game here, but believe me, you're going to be sweating bullets throughout that entire game. And unfortunately, it's the first game of the week, so it's not like you can really have a plan if he doesn't do well. You're either on him or you're not, because once that locks in, it's over. So I'm going to have to keep playing him. I don't see how you don't in this spot, but let's hear Jeff in his little 2-game mentality.
Jeff, please.
Yeah, let's hear Jeff. Is it going to be cold out there?
All right. I mean, well, hey,
we're waiting, Jeff.
Hey. You guys want to play T.Y. Hilton? That's fine. You want to play a banged up T.Y. Hilton? He's going to go for 190 yards for the 3rd time this season. Sure. Look, I like T.Y. Hilton. He's absolutely torched the Texans throughout his career. But again, if T.Y. Hilton has another big game here, the defensive coordinator for the Texans basically should just get fired at halftime and just leave. Like, how do you not stop the one player that has burned you repeatedly in the playoff game? Like, let Andrew Luck beat you with Chester Rogers, Eric Ebron, anyone but T.Y. Hilton at this point. So, yeah, there's a little bit of that aspect baked into this. But also, look at how many touchdown passes Andrew Luck has thrown to the tight end position. It's not like T.Y. Hilton has been this huge touchdown producer, so you are relying on that one big play. He's very boomer bust in this spot, I think, and the injury only adds to the bust aspect. So, I don't think he's a must play. I think if I was making like 10, 100 lineups, I'd definitely get some exposure to him. But I prefer Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper is a safer play. I think his upside is just as good here. So I'm all for fading Ty in the spot personally this week.
Always a pleasure, fellas. We're going to mix in some hockey next after a quick update on Raptors star Kawhi Leonard.
I'm Tara Lenazak, in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Tension will be high tonight as the former Spurs star Kawhi Leonard is making his first trip back to where it all began. Kawhi returns to the Alamo City, where he spent the first 7 seasons of his career before being traded to the Raptors this offseason. It's the buzz of the NBA slate tonight, but one person who was unsurprisingly not interested in discussing Leonard's return is Spurs head coach Greg Popovich. When asked about his former star's homecoming, Pop replied, "You move on in life." Leonard has certainly moved on. He leads the 28-11 Toronto Raptors in scoring and is coming off a career-high 45-point performance in Toronto's win over Utah on Tuesday. He's been on fire as of late, scoring 30 or more points in 3 of his last 5 games. Kawhi's success is certainly a tough pill for Spurs fans to swallow after playing in only 9 games last season for San Antonio and forcing his way out of town in the offseason. Leonard is having arguably the best season of his NBA career. When asked about the matchup tonight, he responded, "Yeah, it's going to be fun." We'll see what kind of reception Leonard receives at the AT&T Center tonight. Something tells me it won't be that warm of a welcome.
We're back here on The Sweat. Let's talk pucks, shall we? To help us with that, we bring in DK Live's Ben Zwyman, also Chris Wassel from awesomemode.com. Chris, first of all, am I saying that right?
You're saying it perfectly right.
Well, that's what we're going for here. Accuracy. Now let's get all the NHL players' names right. All right, guys, this segment is called NHL Off the Wall. It's where you give us some low-priced options at each position for tonight's 7-game slate. So, Zwyman, start us off here. Who's a cheap player you're looking at from the center position?
Yeah, not really a center. He's not center eligible, but with Jack Eichel out, I really like Evan Rodriguez. The Sabres, they're taking on the Panthers at home. Rodriguez is going to be skating in Eichel's place on the top line with Jeff Skinner and Sam Reinhart. He skated big minutes when Eichel left the other night. He should play in that power play spot for Eichel, so he's in a good position. It's a good matchup against the Panthers, who have a poor penalty kill. You're going to get Evan Rodriguez really cheap. $3,000, I think, is his price. So yeah, Evan Rodriguez, a little off the wall GPP play, but yeah, I think he's going to skate a lot of ice time, see some power play time. Good punt play.
Sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Looks a little clueless. Bad joke. Chris, what do you think?
I gotta agree with him. I mean, look, he played 22 minutes last time out. He's confirmed on top unit power play finally. That took a little while today. You know, the kids at practice. You know, they get their beat writers together and do their thing. But I'm going same matchup. I'm going a little bit different. I'm taking the youngster from Florida, Henrik Borgstrom, just for this one simple reason. Borgstrom against let's just say a much maligned Buffalo defense at times that can give up goals in bunches. Or the last time these two teams played, where suddenly it was 2-1 Buffalo and then it was 4-2 in about 2 minutes. And yeah, in that game, Borgstrom had a goal and assist and looked like he was skating past, well, a certain Rasmus Dahlin in circles. So it's kind of a low price, low 3,000s again, and you can spend up in a lot of other places.
All right, now moving on to the wingers here, Chris. Where is the best value at that position?
This one's a little harder. I mean, look, I took a lot of heat for this. As much of my love of Ilya Kovalchuk through the years, but no, we're not going to go with him tonight. We thought about it a little bit. There was a report out that Jeff Carter may not play tonight. No, he's in. So don't panic. That remains status quo. We're actually going Arturi Lehkonen, who, look, again, another one of these guys, low to mid 3,000s, a lot of shots on goal, a good deal of bad luck to a point, but he's capable of lighting the lamp against a Vancouver team that is unrested and, look, gives up goals in bunches. This is a team that gives up 3.25 goals on the road. They could easily give up 4 or 5 tonight as Montreal cruises along.
All right, Ben, so where are you looking at here with the wingers?
Yeah, I like Joshua Hosang of the Islanders. He's going to be skating on the top line with Brock Nelson and Anders Lee tonight. The Islanders have a great matchup at home against the Blackhawks. They're 30th in goals allowed this season at 3.6. Hosang's a flashy player. He's all offense. He hasn't really produced much points since being called up, but I think this is the night where if he's going to pop, it's going to be tonight. The Blackhawks are a fantastic matchup. I think the Hawks have been playing these up-pace style games, these track meet games. I think Hosang's style really fits that, and at 2,800, you're going to get another top liner really cheap. I think he's a good GPP play.
All right, let's jump to the goaltenders, guys. Between the pipes, Ben, a netminder that you can roster on the cheap tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're feeling crazy, I feel crazy most of the time. Jonathan Quick, he's not confirmed in for the Kings tonight, but if he is, I like him at 6,800 at home against the Bolts. It's a really, really, really bad matchup on paper, obviously, but his ownership is going to be non-existent. So if you're looking for a really, really like GPP play, Jonathan Quick is your guy. He's actually played pretty well lately. He's won 3 of his past 4 starts. He's got a .911 save percentage at home, which isn't bad. Again, the ownership's going to be really low. At 6,800, you're going to be able to pay up in other spots on your roster. So I think Quick is a decent punt play.
My fantasy lineup hopes you are right. Chris.
Okay, and I can give you guys some news. He is expected to start according to Gam Matsuwata. So
terrific.
He is listed as likely. So look, likely is 9/10 of the law in DFS hockey. So you always roll with it. My risk play tonight of the night is Roberto Luongo, just because there is no Jack Eichel for Buffalo. This is a total hit or miss. You're either going to be smiling all the way here to the bank, or you're just going to be going, oh, he gave up 5 again. It's that kind of hit or miss, kind of with similar to Jonathan Quick. He's either going to do really well, or he's going to get lit up like a, well, for lack of a better term, Christmas tree.
Well, it's timely at least. All right, guys, always a pleasure. We're going to let you go with that. More football to come with our NFL experts. First, I'm going to ditch Tyler here for just a couple of minutes, bring in Adam Levitan for the latest Levitan's Leverage. I'm going to shift over here real quick. Well, I hope you didn't think Levitan's Leverage would end during the regular season, because we're back. Adam Kaufman, Adam Levitan. We're looking ahead to Wild Card Weekend. Levy, 4 games, but only 3 plays that you're recommending here anyway. People can check out your work on the DK Playbook. But let's start with Ezekiel Elliott. 9K, fresh off a 2,000-yard season. That included, of course, season-high 8 yards per carry as part of a 127-yard day in Week 3 in this matchup. Is this a smash spot for him at home against the Seahawks?
Yeah, I know that Ezekiel Elliott is going to be massively owned, likely the highest owned player on the entire slate. I think what people need to realize is the context of the entire slate is going to be very low scoring. We have a lot of really good defenses and honestly some somewhat shaky offenses on this slate. So I think 20 points is going to go much, much further on this slate than it would on another slate. We also don't have a lot of really good plays at the top end of the price spectrum. So you add all those things up, and yeah, Ezekiel Elliott is going to be massively owned. I still think he's the play.
Well, if you're looking for a cheaper back option, there's always Tariq Cohen. I wouldn't quite call him value. He's kind of mid-tier at 5,400. He's facing the defending champion Eagles. Cohen, a kind of boom or bust, right? I mean, he's a threat certainly for 7 catches, 50-plus yards, and a score. I assume it's really Philly's horrible passing D that motivates you here.
Yeah, and the way Matt Nagy schemes, he does it on a week-to-week opponent-specific basis. It's not just they run the same thing every single week. I think that in this specific matchup against the Eagles, he will want to be very pass-centric. That's the best way to beat the Eagles. And specifically, a great way to beat the Eagles is with pass-catching running backs. We've seen it throughout the year. So it sets up really well for increased volume for Mitchell Trubisky and also for them to feature Tariq Cohen, which I think is their best matchup, Tariq Cohen against the linebackers and safeties of the Eagles.
All right, so running back, Lamar Jackson, a quarterback, but a mobile one, getting ready for his first playoff start. The Ravens rookie has the Chargers at home. He's 5,800, confident certainly after a must-win game to get into the playoffs. And there's familiarity, too, here. Baltimore just faced L.A. a couple of weeks ago. Does that benefit Jackson or the Bolts?
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I think the Chargers coming across country, going to a really tough environment, playing a really good defense in the Ravens bodes well for Lamar Jackson because he'll be getting the ball a lot. And once Lamar Jackson has the ball, we know he's going to run with the football. And there's just so much value in that, as I mentioned, on a slate where 10, 15, 20 points is going to go a long way, knowing that Lamar Jackson is going to carry the ball 10 to 15 times and have red zone rushing equity as well. That really goes a long way. So I think that Deshaun Watson and Andrew Luck are certainly fine, more than fine. They're also 1K more than Lamar Jackson. So from a price sensitive perspective, I think Lamar Jackson makes the most sense.
If you haven't, check out Levitan's leverage on the DK Playbook postseason edition. And it doesn't stop here. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, good luck.
All right, thanks, Kauf. Much
appreciated. Pleasure. It's all Levitan.
Just doing the job. Yeah, I like it. All right, time to look at some of the over-unders for Wild Card Weekend as we welcome back DK Live, Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich, and Reed Fowler. And first up, guys, the early game on Saturday, Colts and Texans. DK Sportsbook is setting this one at 48 total points. Reed, are you going over or under in this matchup?
Yeah, I'm going to go over here. Indy has the 6th highest pass play percentage when they're on the road. And if you look at Houston, 7th most passing plays when they're at home. And I think this is really where this game's going to go. This is how you attack Houston's defense. If you're Indianapolis, you attack their passing game. We talked about it quite a bit. So I think this game is going to be high paced. Look, this definitely can be a defensive side. Both teams have really good front sevens, but I do think that this goes over.
All right, Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, it's really hard to like the under in this spot. Texans averaging 25.1 points on the year, Colts 27.1. And I mean, if they're going to stay with that output, you're already at the over at that juncture if they're going to hit their seasonal average. And surprisingly, the Texans are only 7-9 on the over-under this year, which I was pretty surprised about. But I still think this is one of those classic over games. This feels like a really close one, like a 30-28 game really feels like something that we could see here in this spot. 48 just seems really, really low for a game that has two dynamic offenses. So I'm definitely going on the over on this one.
Jeff, we going with the clean sweep?
No, I kind of like the under here for a few reasons. I mean,
out of your mind.
I just think Indianapolis is the dominant team. And I think that if Indy gets off to a good start and gets their run game going, their defense is going to hold the Texans offense to a lot fewer points than people think. It kind of happened the last time they met. It was 24-21. That was 45 points total. And I kind of see a similar game where the Colts might even dominate further. Don't forget, the Texans they have DeAndre Hopkins. They don't have anyone else. So DeAndre Hopkins is a little bit entering this game a little bit banged up. Like, who else is Deshaun Watson going to go to? I think the Texans are in trouble in this game. I do kind of like the under here. I think Indy's going to control the pace and keep it a little bit lower scoring.
You guys are consistent. Later game on Saturday is Russell Wilson and the Seahawks hanging out in Jerry World to take on the Cowboys. This one 43 points, okay, even lower. Bukes, you like the over or the under?
43 just sounds like really low for this game, right? Like if I hear a game that's predicted at 43 points, that's like a Bills-Jaguars game, if you ask me. And it opened at 41.5, so obviously it's gone up since then. Seattle's 9-7 on the year on the over-under. Dallas is 7-9. But the emergence of the poor run defense for the Cowboys is what really got me over on the over in this one here. I just think that's going to be such a factor in this game. I think Seattle can run like they have all season long against this Cowboys defense. So I just feel like 43 is really low for a game with teams that really can put up points here. I mean, these guys have been talking about how they like the spot for Amari Cooper and such. There's just too many factors in this game that it's hard for me to see an under in this spot.
Jeff, too low for you as well?
No, I love the over in this spot. This is probably my favorite. Of all the totals we're going to talk about, this is my favorite spot to go over. Yeah, the defenses are good, and yeah, these two teams like to run the ball, but the offenses are really good, and the quarterbacks are playing at high levels here. I mean, Dak Prescott, last 4 or 5 games with Amari Cooper, he's been on fire in a couple of these spots. He's played really, really well at home, too, which is going to favor the Cowboys offense. And then, yeah, even if I'm right and the Seahawks do have trouble running the ball, the Seahawks have Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett to come back with the pass for garbage time points here. I think 43 is crazy. I think these two offenses are just too good to not put up over 43 points. And I think you're going to see a bit of a shootout here, especially in the dome game prime time. So,
Reed, 3 for 3?
Yeah, I'd love to disagree with these guys, but they're right. If you look at what Russell Wilson has done, right, his touchdown rate has been historic for him and close to what Watson was doing last year with the Texans. And we've seen Seattle be able to put up points against teams when they have to, like the Rams, where they put up 30-plus points. And in this one, I don't think you have to, right? The Seattle Seahawks can really play to their competition and really what the game calls for. Yes, if these guys run it, Zeke has to run it 30-plus times. Carson and these guys are running it the second most times over the last 3 games. They're still able to score. They're still able to put up touchdowns with Tyler Lockett as an explosive play. I don't think Doug Baldwin is in this one. as a matchup. But yeah, both of these teams are dynamic offenses, so I agree with the guys.
All right, moving on to Sunday now. The early game has the Chargers taking on the Ravens. The line is 41.5 here, Jeff. So do you think we're going over or under?
I actually really like the over in this spot too. I mean, look, the Ravens offense has been pretty consistent and very easy to predict with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Since week 11, they haven't scored anything less than 20 points. They've gone well over 20 points in a lot of those games. And then you have the Chargers, who, I mean, obviously they didn't do so well the last time they played Baltimore, but it's the second time around. They have Melvin Gordon a little bit healthy. Keenan Allen's a little bit healthier. I expect the Chargers to put up a little bit more of a fight here. So 24-20 game. That's kind of what I have my eyes set on here. I think 41.5 is low enough that you can take the over in this spot. Obviously, if it gets a little bit higher, things get dicier. But 41.5, I think that's a good spot to take the over.
All right, Reed, 41.5. Which way are you falling?
Yeah, I agree with Jeff here. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that, but I'm still taking the over and that backdoor cover. Look, the Chargers, if you look at what they've done on the road, is they're essentially undefeated, and a big reason for that, and Pat Mayo has mentioned this quite a bit in his show, is that they play their home games essentially like away games, right? Not really having a home crowd there in Los Angeles. Like they're 4-0 against that number versus the over with the +4 in overall differential. And so I do like the Chargers on the road. I'm not scared necessarily of that pace, even though the Chargers are the slowest paced team. I think they're going to have to play up against this Ravens team. So I'm with Jeff here.
All right, Bukes, put a cap on this one.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the over on this one here. I mean, we always, bring home how good this Ravens defense is, but really the Chargers aren't that bad either. We look at the Ravens, they allowed an average of 18 points per game. The Chargers are right in that same company. They only allowed 20.5 points on the season to their opponent. So, looking at that right there, that's 38 points. I mean, 41.5 is a pretty low total. I mean, I don't want to say it's easy to cover, but it's easier than some of these other totals that we've seen already. But this just feels like such a defensive game on both sides of the ball here. So I'm going to go with the under on this one. I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be, a blowout by any means, but I think it'll be close. I'm going to stick with the under.
I'm glad the games themselves don't go this quickly. Let's wrap up Wild Card Weekend in Chicago, guys. Bears hosting Nick Foles and the defending champion Eagles, much as that pains me to say. This game, the lowest projected total of the bunch, only 41 points. So, Reed, where do you fall on this line?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the under here. I know Jeff's going to go with his boy with Nick Foles and the over, but top 10 in stats Chicago is against quarterbacks in passing play situations. You just 10.5 points given up right over the last 4 games. Chicago's defense really good. What I will say to Jeff's point, if he does make it, is that this defense is number 1 in scoring percentage. It's at 20%. So offensive plays that end in a scoring percentage for the Bears. So it's going to be tough because I can't envision Philadelphia putting up a ton of points or Chicago really needing to put up a lot of points. So I'm going to take the under here.
Jeff, Reed is responding to points you haven't even made yet.
Yeah,
you want to go ahead?
Reed's wrong. I'm taking the under here.
Whoa!
Whoa!
The Eagles are the 6th slowest pace of play in the league, and the Bears are the 3rd slowest team in terms of pace of play in the league. And look, the offenses in this game are good enough to go over, but it really comes down to how Matt Nagy is going to call his game. He's been a pretty conservative play caller, especially when the Bears have the lead. Likes to lean on his defense, and I think that's going to continue in this game. And look, the Eagles' defense, for all their problems in the secondary, they've actually been a lot better against the rush the last 3 weeks. Both of these teams are playing pretty good defense. It just leads to sorry, Steve, but it's going to be a little bit cold and a little bit windy, over 10 miles per hour wind. It just leads to a game that there it is, doesn't speak to a lot of points. So things could go the other way. I mean, Matt Nagy could come out with like some crazy offensive scheme. It would behoove him to do so, but I don't think he's going to do it. So I think under is the play here.
Man, you didn't get the wave off or the eye roll. Bukes, go ahead.
The show is over in 7 minutes. We came so close to not even mentioning it, but no, Jeff's going to throw it out there. It's talking about Nick Foles and everything. Yeah, great graphic. Yeah, it's time well spent. Look, the thing here with this total is, what are the Eagles going to do offensively and how are they going to generate it? I mean, this is not a game where all of a sudden the Bears defense is going to totally break down against, Nick Foles, St. Nick. Obviously, he's not all that holy. He had a rib injury. He couldn't just touch himself and heal himself. Obviously, he doesn't have all those powers in him. But look, I mean, this is an Eagles defense that has just been so putrid in the secondary. I mean, Jeff wants to mention how good they've been on the ground lately. I mean, look what they played. Like, I would hope they'd be okay on the ground over the past 3 weeks. But overall, this is a team that's averaging 192 receiving yards to opposing receivers on the year, 125 rushing and receiving yards to opposing backs. Like, you just salivate at the thought of getting Tariq Cohen in this game here. So it's no surprise to me that the Eagles are projected for under 20 points in this game. This game could get the over just from the Bears. Like, that is just how bad I think this Eagles secondary is. But I'm gonna play it here and say it's gonna go under. But yeah, there's no chance the Eagles gonna win this game with holding.
Hey, don't besmirch Samaje Perine, who they shut down last week. I mean, come on.
Right. How silly of me.
Besmirch and boo-hoo. Good words, Jeff.
That Eagles pass defense, one of the worst in the NFL. And Tariq Cohen, speaking of Adam Levitan, we did Levitan's leverage earlier, loves Tariq Cohen this week, so you should check that out. All right, guys, much appreciated. Now, before we go to break, we have an exciting event to tell you about.
Yeah, it's very true. If you're in the tri-state area, this January 11th through the 13th, DraftKings will be hosting its first ever sports betting national championship event to crown the first ever DraftKings sports betting national champion in New Jersey City in New Jersey. There you go. It's a double one there. All right, you can have your chance to compete for the grand prize. Get this, Kauf. $1 million. That's with an M.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. For more information, head over to DraftKings.com. And you going to go?
Yeah. I'll see you there.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, coming up, some more Hoops Talk with our experts.
Hey, I'm Tara Azak, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Chargers running back Melvin Gordon has declared himself good to go for the team's wildcard weekend game against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday. Gordon left late in last Sunday's season finale win over the Broncos after tweaking his ankle and has also been battling a knee injury, which caused him to miss 3 games this season. But LA's leading rusher said he feels healthier now than he did heading into the Chargers' Week 16 matchup with the Ravens. In that game, he ran for only 41 yards, but did score a touchdown against a tough Baltimore defense that ranks 4th in the NFL against the run. A healthy Gordon would be a huge boost for the Chargers offense, which has recently struggled, combining for only 19 points in Week 16 and 17. This will be his first trip to the postseason in his 4-year career, and LA needs him at 100% now more than ever.
Final few minutes here, and I do mean a few minutes. We decided to give the Hoop Heads Julian Edlow, DK Live, and RotoWire's Alex Barutha the final word in this show. And guys, we got to move quickly, but let's get everything in. We're looking at the NBA slate tonight. Tiers of Joy. We will give you what players are in a given tier. You'll tell us which fine folks at home they should roll, what direction. All right. Tier 1, we have the likes of KD and Steph Curry, along with Nick Jokic. There's Kawhi Leonard as well. He's playing his first game back in San Antonio. So, Alex, you taking a drive down Narrative Street there?
I actually like Jokic in this spot. I mean, if I had to trust any of these guys to get me like 60, 65 fantasy points, I think I'd go with Jokic. He's done it 3 times since mid-December. Kawhi's done it the fewest times out of the guys in this list. I understand the narrative, but at the same time, when we're not talking prices, when we're talking tiers, in this situation, I like Jokic's matchup.
What about you, Jules?
Yeah, Kawhi's probably the safest play here, but we're generally not playing cash games in tiers. So I actually agree with Alex here. You're going to go for the higher ceiling. Sacramento's terrible against big men, and Jokic has one of the highest ceilings in terms of anybody in the NBA, so you can get a huge game from Jokic here.
All right, no on Kawhi there, but on the other side of that Kawhi matchup is DeMar DeRozan. He also has a revenge narrative. He's in Tier 2 along with Clint Capella, De'Aaron Fox, Aldridge, Jamal Murray. So who is the guy that you want to lean to here, Julian?
Yeah, I do like DeRozan, and he's been pretty strong over his last few games, but Rudy Gay was not supposed to play in this game, but was actually ruled in within the last hour or so. So that's going to take up some usage on the perimeter. I actually think I would go with LaMarcus Aldridge here and look to attack the post against Toronto while they don't have Jonas Valanciunas, and you're going to get a contrarian play there.
All right, Alex, who do you like in Tier 2?
Yeah, I mean, DeRozan's upside is nice, but he has so many duds. It always scares me off from playing him usually. I do like, we mentioned before, Capella against the Warriors. I don't think they have the size to really compete against them. Yeah, the DeRozan Aldridge, I think that's going to be a super slow-paced game. There's only 3 games on the slate, so it's not as big of a deal, but I like Capella.
All right, speed it up a little bit, guys. Klay Thompson, biggest name in Tier 3. Do you roll with him? Do you roll with someone like Buddy Hield, Willie Cauley-Stein, someone else? Alex, what do you think?
I think Buddy Hield is interesting maybe it's a contrarian play. I mean, we can know he can he can go for 45 fantasy points. He could hit like 8 threes in a game. Shouldn't surprise anybody. So fast pace there. I know the shooting guard spot is tough when you're playing Denver, but I like him.
Jules, you got about 20 seconds.
Klay Thompson would probably be my second pick here. I'm going to go stick with that slow game and be a little contrarian. Give me Pascal Siakam, who's got 40 points in back-to-back games.
Very quickly, just names. Slate-approved pick. Julian.
Classic style. You got to lock James Harden in for 11K.
And Alex?
I'm actually going to go Curry here. I like him as 9,500.
That was fun, wasn't it? And Jules, you even moved to a brighter part of the house. I appreciate that. Guys, we're going to let you go. You know, you are the best. I think people should know by now, but the sweat, it comes your way Monday through Friday. You can find us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope, Twitter, everywhere. We'll be back with you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, for a full hour of fun getting ready for football. Tyler, Adam, bye-bye.